Our guest speaker, Marcia, was initially an undergraduate at Colorado College, got a PhD from Scripps, taught for a number of years at MIT, and moved to the directorship of the U.S. Geological Survey, and is now, of course, the 22nd president of the National Academy of Sciences. So without any more to do, let me introduce and welcome Marcia McNutt.
So good morning, everyone, and what a pleasure it is for me to be able to speak to you today. I really appreciate this opportunity. One reason is that it seems like at the National Academy of Sciences, we're doing all AI all the time. And so the opportunity of putting this talk together actually allowed me to try to organize in some fashion all of these activities. When I asked the staff for the list of what they're doing, the list was 65 items long. So I went through and I narrowed it down to what I thought were the most interesting. And I noticed that the ones I picked actually in the end hit on the themes in the panels today, such as climate change, natural hazards, health, ethics, etc. So I'm hoping that those of you here today who are interested in any of these topics will jot down some of these activities at the Academy to see if there's anything going on there that can help inform your next steps, as Michael just said, will be happening here. So for those, I think everyone here pretty much knows about the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. There are 3 separate academies, and together, the 3 academies run the National Research Council, which is the operating arm of the Academy, and that is where most of our studies get done. So I'm here as president of the NIS, but I want to assure you that I'm representing the work that is actually being nucleated across all of the academies, certainly AI and health, engineering aspects of AI, etc. And what I did in trying to organize my thoughts for today was I put all of the topics we're working on in these 5 categories. They aren't exactly neat categories, as you'll see, and some could have been mentioned in many of them. But the first is, how is AI going to impact the conduct of science itself? Which I think is something that we really need to be on top of. Next, what are some of the safety concerns with AI that need addressing? Trust being probably one of the top ones. How will AI change education and outreach? How will AI impact the process of science advising? And I think that is one of the key reasons why all of you are here today. And what aspects of AI need to be coordinated internationally? So I'll just go through some examples of all of these. So let's start with how AI will impact the conduct of science. So we held a recent workshop at the Academy that was titled AI for Scientific Discovery. This workshop brought together leaders in AI, science, engineering, ethics, law, and the social sciences. And the purpose was to identify opportunities and challenges for using AI in scientific discovery. The opportunities, though they seem endless, there are numerous questions of what makes for trustworthy research, reliable discovery, and whether such investigations should be performed with or without human intervention. And I think we're going to hear more about that later today. And we need to understand how best to prioritize the research agenda and allocation of resources, and do so in a way that doesn't magnify disparities between different people and nations alike. So how do we make sure that it's not just the in-crowd that benefits from AI? Another project we have under this general rubric of how it's going to change science discovery is AI to assist mathematical reasoning. AI has great potential to contribute to mathematics by guiding, for example, one of the most important things is What questions are you asking? AI can actually help with formulating good questions, with assisting in the formalizing mathematics and more. And this was a workshop that led to a 3-part webinar series, which is all available on the web, where the academies explored how AI technologies are being used to advance mathematical sciences, open up interdisciplinary collaboration, and also explore how can AI be used to help with proofs of mathematical conjectures and with testing the proofs that come out. Another area is in biotechnology and environmental health research. This is one of the few consensus studies in the AI area that we are undertaking. For those of you who may not be really familiar with all the different products we have at the Academy, consensus studies are our premier product, but they take 18 months to 2 years to put out. And so for the most part, little of our AI work is being done in consensus study mode because things just change too fast. By the time you're got the report done, the whole landscape has changed. This series and this consensus study builds on presentations from a series of workshops that convene topics of AI automated biotech labs, AI-assisted data integration, wouldn't we all love that? And particularly that data integration in environmental and biomedical fields. Applications of AI to advance environmental health research and decision-making. Now, actually, one of the real holy grails in AI is the potential to lower the cost, to increase the speed, and to reduce errors in diagnosing human health and disease. Several recent workshops on this topic explored the use of AI in, for example, professional education. How do we train people in order to do image interpretation? And how AI might transform clinical trials and bioethical issues associated with it. The potential to increase the autonomy of both elderly and people with disabilities through AI. We're also currently conducting a consensus study on impacts for health equity across the country. This is another topic we're dealing with, AI for natural resource and hazard management. Obviously, these are big topics here in Washington State. We have a collection of activities on AI for these two topics, and they build off some public webinars on potential uses of AI, both in the ag industry and in natural hazards in the geosciences. We've got a webinar series of navigating the era of artificial intelligence, and this is the last one in this topic. And the series was designed to help researchers integrate AI into their research. The first in the series explored how AI can be part of the research team to increase productivity, and the second focused on the role of social studies in understanding the impacts of AI in the sciences. Now let me go on to my second topic, which are some of the safety and ethical concerns with AI. First of all, this was a workshop that, or it was a retreat that the National Academy of Sciences held with Pennsylvania's Annenberg School. And it was held at the Annenberg Trust at Sunnylands, and Eric was there and many other experts. The main issue of this retreat was to look at how will AI impact the norms of science. All of you who are scientists here understand that as scientists, we really value transparency, explaining how we got our answer, showing our work. We value attribution, giving proper credit to everything that came before. We value reproducibility. We want to see that we can get the same answer by other people in different labs using other approaches. But how do we ensure that with AI? With AI, nothing's reproducible. You can ask the exact same prompt twice and get two different answers. Transparency, even the engineers don't really know how it's doing what it's doing, especially with the large language models. And attribution, very often, there's hallucination of, reports that don't even exist and things like that. So this was a very interesting retreat. The retreat participants came up with these 5 human-centered values in using AI in science: transparent disclosure and attribution, verification of anything that was generated by AI independently by humans, documentation of AI-generated data, so we know what came out of the AI, focus on ethics and equity, and continuous monitoring, oversight, and public engagement. Now, one of the other recommendations that came out of this workshop that we're working to set up right now is the idea of setting up a strategic council for the responsible use of artificial intelligence in science. Now, a strategic council is a new kind of body at the Academy. As I said, we can't wait 2 years for results. But on a topic like this, when the audience for it is actually the scientific community itself, we can be far more nimble by putting together a strategic council and asking it to set up working groups to deal with the different issues, do it in a very nimble way where we get papers written in a couple of months, and then we publish them in regular peer-reviewed journals so that we can actually reach the audience in a very short amount of time. If anyone has any ideas of good people we should invite to serve on this strategic council, I would love to hear from you. Now, this study was not actually focused on AI, but of course AI is but one subset of computing research. And this consensus report, Fostering Responsible Computing Research Foundations and Practices, presents some best practices for funding agencies, academic organizations, and individual researchers so they can formulate and conduct computing research in a responsible manner. This report explores ethical issues as well as ways to promote responsible practices through education and training. A few main findings from this 2022 study include considering ethical and societal impacts from the get-go, engaging stakeholders to identify complicated social dynamics that come out of computing research, and of course with AI as well, and establishing policies and regulations to prevent adverse outcomes. Computing researchers can assist by revealing the limitations of their research results and identifying possible adverse impacts and how they can be mitigated. We're also, this is another new activity that I'd love to hear nominations for, is to form a standing committee on artificial intelligence technologies and emerging impacts. So this is really not focused on so much the applications of AI in science, but rather on the technology itself and the impacts regardless of their applications. And so this standing committee is going to track and explore advances in AI, including especially the technical aspects of it, but also social, ethical, and emerging implications for national competitiveness, for national security, for role and responsibilities of the AI research community. And these standing committees are collections of experts who share their viewpoints. We try to get a standing committee that truly reflects a broad suite of attitudes and generates then ideas for follow-on workshops, studies, other groups. One of the first activities we set up with AI was an AI and climate roundtable. Now, a roundtable is a little different than a standing committee because we do appoint some people to the roundtable, but funders automatically get a seat at the table. And so it involves people, a lot more people from industry and other places than some of these others. They meet to discuss issues of common concern. They share their perspectives. They do not provide any recommendations formally, but they can help generate ideas for new studies that could. This particular roundtable is looking at the duality of AI. On one hand, how can AI better predict future climate change? And on the other hand, what is the role of AI in exacerbating climate change? And how can that be mitigated? So I think this is one of our more interesting bodies. The first activity of that new climate roundtable is a workshop that's going to be held in mid-November of this year to explore how to map, measure, and mitigate the impacts of AI electricity usage. Global adoption of AI in recent years has spurred significant construction and investment in new data centers and, of course, in cloud computing. These data centers require massive amounts of power, and there are various strategies for how to deal with that, but basically it is a challenge for local electrical grids and for broader climate goals. During the workshop, the speakers will come from the computing industry, from utilities, and from government, and discuss how recent developments in AI have the potential to impact energy demands, identify options to mitigate those, and explore how AI tools can help centers use energy and water more efficiently. So how can they actually make this process more efficient? And also, they're going to be considering, how do we standardize benchmarks for what is the real carbon footprint of these different activities? Artificial intelligence has many potential benefits. It's also been shown to suffer from a number of challenges for successful performance in complex real-world environments, such as military operations. You know, lots of concerns in the military of AI making decisions to drop a bomb or, you know, explode something. And some of the challenges are brittleness in the models, perceptual limitations, hidden biases, and a lack of actually a causal that understands and predicts future events in many complex and novel situations in the foreseeable future. This was a 2022 consensus report and examined the factors that are relevant to the design and implementation of AI systems. You know, we've all heard stories of, you know, in the past where actual nuclear annihilation was prevented by one individual standing up and deciding not to believe the data in front of him and refusing to press the button. And can we trust that that would happen with AI? Next, artificial intelligence offers the promise of making sense of information more quickly and actually more consistently than human beings. However, the use of this technology brings with it new risks stemming from human and organizational realities of the resulting socio-technical development, deployment, and generation practices, and how they relate with social values. This was a recent workshop on human and organizational factors and explored how to safely operate AI in real-world environments through broadened stakeholder participation, through evaluation, testing, and oversight, and through the interplay between AI and organizational cultures. So this was a very general study. Okay, so the intersection of AI and transportation is actually a very large and already with us issue. The Academy's Transportation Research Board has established a standing committee on AI and advanced computing in transportation that's actually chaired by Dr. Wang here at UW. This committee helped to plan a conference in Austin in May of this past year. And AI will also be a hot topic at the Transportation Research Board's big annual meeting in January in Washington, D.C. The Research Board is also holding a conference on data and AI for transportation in May next year, and that's going to be here in Seattle, that one. However, although it's not for May, the deadline for abstracts is September 30th of this year. So if you are interested in AI and transportation, please meet that deadline. Okay, next is using machine learning in safety-critical applications. This is an upcoming consensus report at the Academy that will evaluate challenges in building safety-critical systems that rely on machine learning in their operation. How will we assess the trustworthiness of these safety-critical applications? And the result is also going to identify future investments needed to foster improvements in safety. Next, law enforcement. One of the areas where AI is being used right now is in law enforcement. But of course, there are questions about whether AI will be more or less biased than the police officers themselves. The National Academies Committee on Science, Technology, and the Law held a workshop to consider how to broaden stakeholder engagement with the applications of AI in policing, how to evaluate the systems, and how they will interface with the culture of law enforcement, which is, of course, very different than the culture of science in this room. I think this is a very important topic here, the future of work for frontline workers. With rapidly changing technologies, the US will be required to reboot, I've heard it said millions, but I think it could be tens of millions of workers who will find AI interfacing with the way they used to do their jobs. The retooling required will be greatly impacted by the type of worker and the skills needed, whether the worker needs to be reskilled, upskilled, or trained for an entirely new skill. Companies must re-examine how they identify, how they onboard, or how they train workers on the front line and examine ways to ensure that they will continue to be successful, as AI has the potential to be a major partner in industry, but also one of the biggest disruptors to work as we know it. The academies will be exploring how companies can ensure that the workers will continue to be successful, as AI has the potential to, as I say, be disruptive. The discussion on this topic has been very broad. It was, and there's a follow-on webinar that we are undertaking. As a follow-on to the webinar, we're undertaking now a consensus study on AI and the future of work. This report, I think, will be quite influential. Now let me move on to topic 3, how AI will change education and outreach. This was a recent webinar that we held that explored the current technologies, how they work, and how they may change the information landscape going forward. And they considered positive innovations they could facilitate in science communication and discussed systematic limitations and risks, as well as the broad ethical and some implications of these technologies. I wanted to mention to you this David lecture, which is upcoming. This is going to be on October 10th in Washington, D.C., and it will be hosting the Henry and Bryna David Lecture on K-12 education in the age of AI. The speaker is Dr. Tucci Grova from Looking Glass Ventures. She's a computer scientist and is by training, and she's been committed to pre-K-12 computing education in formal and informal settings. This lecture on October 10th is going to be webcast at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So it should be convenient for anyone here who wants to tune in. Now let me go on to topic 4, how AI will impact science advising. I think that is one of the key themes of this meeting. So first of all, the Academy hosted a recent webinar series on AI impact on state and local governments. And so I think for those of you who are considering how you might be helpful to your state government, it might be worthwhile reviewing what was discussed in this webinar, in focusing on opportunities, challenges, and the need for informed decision-making in the age of artificial intelligence. There are many facets. State and local governments serve as both users and regulators of AI. They have the responsibility to balance ethical considerations, build public trust, and ensure equitable distribution of benefits. The series of webinars also address the various bills and policies currently being discussed by various state governments nationwide. And at one end of the spectrum is exploring ways to better serve citizens using AI in their states. If AI could possibly be harnessed to help citizens better navigate state bureaucracy, I would say that would be a win for all. We've also hosted 2 additional webinars along the same theme that have focused on state and local governments. The May webinar focused on risks and benefits, while the August one focused on equity, and both are available on the web. Next, as we meet here, the U.S. Global Change Research Program will be holding at the Academy today and online a public meeting to help inform their decisions on using AI to help build the next climate assessment. How can AI actually improve the process, speed it up, and make it avoid bias? This is an example of a highly influential scientific assessment, or a HISA. And concerns with doing this are ensuring that the use of AI leads to a report that is authoritative, it's useful, it's equitable, and trusted. And I think this is going to be an important foray into this field of using AI in assessments, and we should all keep track of this because I think we're going to learn a lot from it. I talked about AI in policing, but AI in the courts, I think, could be a big game changer. As you know, as a result of a recent Supreme Court decision, which shot down the Chevron doctrine, what that means is the courts are going to be left a lot more freedom because they're being separated from the primacy of agencies in saying how to interpret policies. And so the Academy is putting out its latest revision of its reference guide for manual on scientific evidence in the courts. And we are going to be incorporating AI into this. This report is a legal resource provided to 3,000 federal judges and is also used in academia. In addition to this new report, which will include AI, the Academy will be convening, along with the Royal Society of the UK in the fall of 2025, a conference to discuss approaches used by the courts in considering, evaluating, and managing the use of science involving AI, or scientific evidence involving AI. And I think the Royal Society is a good group to do this with because of the common sort of basis for English common law and law here in the US. We're also we held on May 2nd of this year, the National Academies Committee on National Statistics, or SINSTAT, held an in-person event to explore the implications of AI for federal statistical agencies. For example, how might it revise how they do their data collection, produce their statistics, and come up with research insights. This intersects with other fields who are also making use of AI, and goals include examining use cases, unintended consequences, tool development, and assessment of best approaches. So finally, let me go on to the last part. What aspects of AI need to be coordinated internationally? Of course, we could go on for a long time about this, but one of the big issues is clinical care and AI-guided autonomous weapons. These are two very polar opposite. One is designed to save lives, the other is designed to take lives. But both of these are international issues. The former one is a upcoming activity that's going to be done through our HMD, our health division, and with International Academy partners, we're going to promote education in healthcare professionals to help upskill people around the world. The second one, these are behind-the-scenes dialogues, which are held by CSAC, which is the Committee on International Security and Arms Control at the Academy. It is a very low-profile group of experts in international arms control who get together with their compatriots in China, in Russia, in Iran, with countries that don't like us very much. And so we can't have dialogue at the national level. So these lower-level dialogues help to avert disastrous consequences because of miscommunication between us and these other nations. Finally, I wanted to mention this project we did not too long ago, completed recently, on the role of net metering in the evolving electricity system. When I agreed to come speak here, the reason I was so excited about it is that so many of the decisions that are being made about climate, about natural hazards, about resource allocations are all happening at the state and local level. And with the National Academy of Sciences operating at the national level, we have decided, and in fact it is a key ingredient in the new National Academy of Sciences strategic plan, that we want to build strong partnerships with state academies. Because we can provide sort of a national overview, but then we want to, we want to put behind the days when we would do an authoritative report, stick it on the shelf, and hope it has impacts. By working with the state academies, we can actually help these reports have impact by downscaling them to the needs of individual states and individual local communities. So this report on net metering is providing advice for an upcoming Washington State Academy of Sciences report on net metering. This is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart because when California first instituted net metering, we put solar panels on our roof and sent back to the grid the power we weren't using. Our electric bill went from $250 to $300 a month to $50 a year. But the problem was neighbors down the street who were renting their house did not have the authority to put solar panels on their roof. So as our bill went down, their bills went up. So California then changed the law so you didn't get as much credit for the net metering. So what did we do? We put batteries lining the walls of our garage. So we still only have a $50 a month or $50 a year electric bill, but that hasn't helped our neighbors who are still then supporting the grid. So I think this is a very complex issue, and I think it will have to be dealt with in different jurisdictions differently depending on mix of housing, the weather, climate, that sort of thing. So the Washington State Value of Solar Project is conducting a state-specific one of this, and we hope that this report can be helpful to you. So I'm getting to the end here. If you're interested in diving deeper in any of these topics, our wonderful comms folks at the Academy have created an aggregator page of AI at the National Academies. So if any of these things looked interesting to you, just go to our topics page, artificial intelligence, and it talks about both upcoming activities, already completed activities, and has links to the webinars, workshop reports, and consensus committee reports. I hope you'll find this of use to you, and as I say, from speaking as the president of the NAS, I really look forward to working with state academies like Washington to help actually get impact out of the work we do, because all of that impact is happening at the state and local level. So thank you very much. All right, we have 5 minutes for questions, according to Michael. So I just hope if you have any questions, I can actually answer them. Yes, over here. Yes. Oh, yeah, oh, there's a microphone. Okay.
Love your battery example in the house. Now, so just out of the box thinking, something more sophisticated than running an extension cord to your rental neighbors, but how can you get that to them without going to jail?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a really good question. You know, I just think we need some broader thinking in this because we aren't getting it right. I'm just wondering if we don't need to provide more incentives for rental home owners to, because, you know, California's got so much sun, and putting solar panels on roofs is such a great solution because you don't, you know, pave the desert. California is investing right now in industrial scale global panel installation in the Mojave and things like that, which should help those renters because it will provide carbon-free source for them at lower cost. But I still think that actually finding some way to get on the tops of apartment buildings, on the roofs of rental places, solar would be a good incentive to provide. Yeah.
A question about the University Corporation. My background is I do grid simulation and digital twins about modeling the grid and work with the universities. And it's wonderful to have a lot of folks from the Ag University and the City University all here together. They tend to compete with each other because there's limited amounts of funding. So thank you so much for coming. What can we do to make sure that we really take the best of the talent in each university, each state around the country, and get them really working together? And what can we all, industry, what can the academies do that together, please? So
this is an issue that Eric and I have written on in a recent paper that came out in, I think it was PNAS. And it really talked about the fact that, I mean, one of my biggest concerns was trust in AI when university researchers are being priced out of the market of being able to develop models and provide applications. My concern arose from understanding the trajectory of trust in GMOs. When GMO development was overtaken by the big agribusiness companies, the public felt that these products were only being developed for a profit motive, and trust in GMOs plummeted worldwide. It's a little bit less difficult in this country, but in Europe, you know the situation. So I think it's very important that we build new kinds of industry academic collaborations that will help ensure that there are applications of AI that are developed purely for the benefit of the public in mind, without concerns in the bottom line. I think that will help build trust in what industry is doing and provide resources for academic consortia who are working with these big companies. So I think we need to go in that direction.
And answer John McNamara from the Ag University. Thanks for that question, because as a matter of fact, the National Academy of Sciences 2 years ago was asked to do a consensus study and made a report on enhancing collaboration among land-grant universities to solve complex problems. It wasn't only about ag, it was about all subject matters. And so I would really encourage everyone here to look it up. It's enhancing collaboration among land-grant universities, and it's really a framework about team science, about changing funding models at universities. And again, it was a National Academy product and a very good one. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that, because I'll tell you, one of my favorite projects that's probably coming out of our Climate Crossroads is to take the land grant ag extension model and apply it to climate. Because state, decision makers in Nebraska don't want a professor from MIT coming to them and telling them how they should mitigate climate change in their area, but they will listen to people from their own local universities. And I think this is going to be the important way to get climate action going. So, Michael tells me we're done, so we'll go on to the next speaker. Thank you.